Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our fifth panel in our Stylistic Diversity series for the guitar department at Berklee. I'm Kim Perlak. I'm the chair of the guitar department, and I'm really happy to have you all here. And so I'm going to introduce our panel really quickly. We have Sheryl Bailey, our assistant chair of guitar. Hey, Sheryl.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. This is going to be really great conversation with all these great guitar players. I'm really psyched.
Sheryl, do you have your coffee with you?
Oh, you know I do. And I have my official Berklee Guitar Department mug. I know everybody covets it.
We do. Ben, we were thinking of doing like maybe coffee mugs again, but also water bottles for the hydrators among us.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
And that's Ben Cote. He's our coordinator of the department. Hey, Ben.
Hi, I'm excited to be on today.
Yeah.
I'm
And
filling
also,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it's great. Like, you're an alum of the college and a rock guitar player, so it's perfect for this panel. And our professors joining us today are Joe Stump. Hey, Joe.
Hello.
And Joe's tuning in from London, where he's on tour. So thanks for doing this. Thanks for hopping in. And Tomo Fujita, Professor Tomo Fujita. Hey, Tomo.
Hi. How are you, everyone?
And you're in room 418 there on campus.
418, yes, right here, yes.
That's so many videos are shot in 418, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Not this side, you know.
Yeah, right.
You see that?
Exactly. And one of the cool things is Sheryl is an alum of the college, and so is Joe, and so is Tomo. So this is a really cool thing for me to get to moderate this panel of all of you alumni of different styles of music that all have a lot of roots in rock. Like Sheryl, you're really known as a jazz player, but you started in rock.
And so I am still caught on to rock, and I do when I'm called upon to rock. I have no qualms. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And so I wanted to start with Joe and Tomo because while we were hanging out a little earlier, Tomo mentioned that both of you had one teacher in common when you were here as students, and a guy named Al DeFino was your teacher, who is not known for being a rock guitar teacher. And, you know, the famous and infamous Al DeFino, who we talk about a lot in the school. And so could you both talk a little bit about your experience coming to Berklee, maybe from a stylistic background that wasn't jazz, at a time when the school was really focused on a lot of jazz and its pedagogy, and what you worked on with your teacher, if there's anything specific you remember learning from Al and how it helped your playing. Tomo, do you want to go first? You can kind of take that however you want. Just take it wherever.
Well, you know, I came to Berklee to study jazz because my main influence back then is Larry Carlton. So I want to mix it with the blues and the jazz. And I heard a lot of people say, "Al DeFino is a great guy to study," and so I studied. And he was very much an interesting character, you know, some ups and downs, and you know, something he bugs my cigarettes, you know, before the lesson, something like that. We used to smoke cigarettes, and you know, and we play jazz, blues, you know, that was good. But then he said, "Let's play blues for Alice," and I studied 1 week, you know. I learned the melody, chorus, and right away he said, "Let's play in the A flat." What? Oh, then I couldn't play well, and he started laughing like that. You know, he just kind of teasing me, you know, like throwing the cardball. You know, then I learned so much from him about right away. You have to react quickly. Yeah, so something like that. How about Joe?
Well, myself, when I was a Berklee student, I mean, I grew up in New York, and I was playing the heavy rock of the '70s, and you know, like Deep Purple, UFO, Hendrix, things of that nature. And I came to Berklee, and you know, the only jazz or fusion thing I was familiar with was I was a huge Al Di Meola disciple, and I, you know, Gypsy and Midnight Sun and Casino, I wore those records out when I was young. You know, I first heard them when I was in high school. And so I was like predominantly just a hard rock guitar player. And I came to Berkeley, and everybody's talking in that jazz lingo, you know, with the cats and the swinging, and I'm like, I landed on a different planet. And I'm like, what are they talking about? You know, you know, like I was in France or something, and everyone's just talking French, and I'm like, you know, like that. And so at the time, I mean, Berkeley was really like predominantly a players' college. You know, the MP&E department was just in its infancy, and really it was just, if you were there, you were just there to be a player. So I was young and impressionable. You know, I was only 17 when I got there. So I was like, all right, well, everybody's with this whole jazz thing. I guess I better get on the ball and do some of this.
All right.
And I was studying with Al. And Al was, you know, I mean, he would do things, you could hear him yelling through the door at students. Players would leave their lessons crying, you know, he liked, but one thing, the most important thing out of everything, because my jazz and fusion days are long past me. But the one thing I really got from Al that I still take to this day is, if you were in the room with him, sitting across from him, you better be serious about playing the guitar, and you better be serious about studying guitar, and you better be serious about playing and practicing, or you had no business not yet, you know, being in the room with him. Like, you know, just go home, get on the bus, you know, get on the train, you know, wherever you gotta go, just get out. And, you know,
he yelled at, you know, few of my friends wasn't really great at the jazz. And so sometimes he said, get out. He said, get out, because you didn't practice, nothing we can do about it. That's what he said, you know. But for me, at least I practiced what he told me. But I didn't know. I have to study what he didn't told me. Other keys, other fingerings, other things, you know. So every time he showed me like that. And the funny about it, if I play really good, he gets a little pissed, right?
Yeah. He
gets really pissed off because he's not good mood because I play really good swing. He doesn't like that, right?
Yeah. He used to get mad because I could play a lot of the Bach and classical stuff faster than him. So it used to infuriate him and stuff. And, you know, but I love the fact that he had that kind of, you know, competitive edge when you were in the room with him.
Yes, he goes like this.
Gave you a bit of the killer instinct, as I like to call it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? When you get out there, you know, when you get out there live, it's like, you know, as I call it, the battlefield or whatever. You know what I mean? You can't go out there scared.
Right. You just go for it. Right.
No
other way around. Yeah, that's I think I learned from him. Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting to me because, Ben, I think things were different by the time you came to school, but even 20 years ago when I was a student, and Sheryl, I think when you were a student, these are such common stories. Like, everybody has these stories about their teachers, and it was just a different way of motivating you and pushing you and assessing you. And so you guys, like, now that school kind of doesn't run that way anymore, how do you motivate your students in a different way, right? Because I think, like, the downside of that is that the way that your teachers did in some ways is that it doesn't always create an environment that feels super welcoming, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we're all laughing, but you know, we know what we're talking about. And then you see, well, yeah, on the other side of that, there was a benefit. But in this day and age, when we do create an environment that is welcoming, how do you convey the same urgency to your students that it is important for them to buy in and listen to what you're doing and work on it as hard as they can when you're not going to yell at them and kick them out and make them cry? Like, how do you motivate them?
Good point. Yeah. Well, I just be nice to them because, you know, probably 20 years ago, I've been teaching 28 years, you know, probably 25 years ago, I was very much a hard ass because, you know, some of my former students told me, you know, one of my blues ensemble, you know, he said, I'm Tomo Fujita, I love blues, just let's play, right? 1, 2, 3, like this, and you stop playing, you know. And then I gave them a lot of tapes to listen to. If you can play, I just yell at them, you know. But then that's all the days. You can't do that anymore, you know. So nowadays it's a little different. If we jam, if we play, I just wait. I don't push so much. Sometimes we play blues jam. I used to go, stop. You don't know the chords. You have to know the chord. I say yelling like that. But now if I play blues jam, E blues, I play 15 minutes comping. I don't say anything. I just keep playing. But then 15 minutes later, I say, where are you going? And then ask them, do same thing, post on the YouTube. I want to watch it with you. And how you feel like that. So in other words, a little bit process is different. You can't do it, yell at it. You can do change anything. Takes a little bit more time. But then I use this free technology to review them, how they look like, to me, to you. So that's my approach. And I go slow.
So
I just
Tomo,
go-
to me, that sounds like it's like the great philosophers about self-examination.
Oh,
We have all the answers, but we have to be able. So you use YouTube or
yeah, then
whatever. In that
Instagram,
way,
YouTube, yeah, everything. I encourage them. We make a video together. I send them this video. I tell them, cut 30 seconds what you like. I don't choose, you choose, and give it to me and tell me your full name, all the information. I post that on my story and my reel, and you post same one. Let's see how many views we get. So this is algorithm. I post 2 days. Chris, one of my students, we got 60,000 views from me. From him, he said the same one only get to 3,000 views. That's algorithm, So sometimes you have to get the help from big guys, to expose more. And that way, he really encouraged a lot of people to comment, because a lot of great comment from people, a lot of great people, and also great people too. But those don't worry about. So yeah, so this way I just use free spot. That's it. Why not? All we face is sometimes not great. People say something wrong, but still people say, awful thing. That means that people interest me. That's great. So I have to thankful about that. I take everything positive. I don't take anything negative. That's my philosophy.
Well, yeah, that's great. And then you're teaching everyone, as Sheryl is saying, like, you have to motivate yourself. I think a lot of music education in the past was external motivation. Like, you're not going to walk in here, because you're going to be terrified to walk in here.
But, and it probably worked for us, who's very serious. But somebody who's not serious yet almost felt everything negative, almost attacking. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it just all the days, sometimes that works, but then sometimes probably, somebody crying, not good. Yeah, I just want to be nice to people.
Yeah, and then sometimes I think that's a harder lesson. If your teacher's really nice to you and they say, you're not doing that up to the level that would allow you to do this the way you want to in your life, that's harder sometimes because it's so honest, and then it forces you to really look at why you're not practicing in a way where if someone yelled at you, you could blow it off and say, oh, they're a jerk, What about you, Joe? How do you motivate your students? What's your style?
Well, myself, I love to play, and I love to practice. I love to tour. I love to make records. I love to do clinics. I love to work at Berklee. I love to give lessons. I love to give master classes. As long as it involves the guitar, I'm all in. And so my students definitely get that from me. That they come in, I'm always playing. So I try to preach that kind of intensity through my love of playing and my discipline and dedication to the craft. And I also realize that not everybody that studies with me, strives to be a metal virtuoso. It could be somebody that's just a music business major that loves metal, or it could be somebody that's like more into electronic music, but they also love metal. And then you have people that want to be serious players, or people that use the instrument, they like metal, but they use the instrument more of a writing tool. So of course you have to adapt to whatever the player's needs are, and try to serve them the best way. But obviously, and I tell my students all the time, it doesn't take 4 years of music college to know the more you play, the faster you get better. You want to get good, you want to make this your life, then you should immerse yourself in it. Immerse yourself in the music you love. I'm immersed in it. Why aren't you? I ask my students who they like to listen to. They should be blur, when they say, and kind of wishy-washy. How could you be wishy-washy about like what you like to listen to and who your favorite players are and who your influences are and who your favorite bands are? You got so I mean, I kind of do it through that way. I'm ultra nice because what am I going to start doling out detention for everybody that doesn't practice? As I tell my students, who's practicing a lot? Me. Who's getting really good? Me. You want to do it? Practice a lot. I'm still playing, hours and hours a day. I have a guitar in my hand 7 to 9 hours a day, whether I like it or not. That's what it takes. You want to get good at a particular style, any style.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And I think that is more like the world, having come up in the other system. It's not because when you're out, you have to motivate yourself. And the truth is you have to motivate yourself all the time anyway. So I think that's really valid. Ben, it occurs to me that you likely studied with one or more of these people here, and I think you took a lab with Joe. What do you remember? What do you remember about the lab?
Well, it's just like what Joe's explaining now. It's playing bass. You could really you were there to play. I was there to play, and it was really great because I took it the time that I was still kind of finding myself stylistically a bit. I was always been a rock guitar player. I'll probably always be a rock guitar player. It kind of definitely opened me up to some different disciplines inside the genre. Whereas, a lot of the types of rock I was listening to up to that point, I've always been, Van Halen or Randy Rhoads, Joe Perry, players like that. But to kind of have the other side of metal, which was a little bit more classical based. Not that, Randy Rhoads is definitely in that genre as well, but just a different approach to the genre, from, using more arpeggios rather than, blues scales or the modes like that. So it kind of pushed me, it's an interesting concept because it kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone, but in my comfort style, I guess. But it was great. It's just like Joe said, we come to class, he'd be playing, and Joe was such an inspiration just from, his intensity and his passion for the instrument. And at that, I think, I don't want to speak for the other students in the class, but for me, it was definitely, it was motivation, just that in itself, for me to practice. It wasn't, like we were saying in the old days where you didn't have to be yelled at. It's kind of like, all right, this is where I want to be. And, to kind of watch, your teacher by example like that to inspire you to reach that level.
Sheryl, to everybody's point about self-motivation, you do something kind of interesting. You have your students sign a contract with you. Can you talk about that for just a second?
Yeah, well, I think this thing about that self-reflection and self-motivation, I feel that when you meet anybody in any field that has achieved something of high quality and expertise, you see people that have spent a lot of time digging in deeply into looking in the mirror in whatever way that is, and even if you're working on your technique, it's really important to look in a mirror because you can see yourself objectively, right? To really do that thing. So I think that thing also is, we're talking about is taking that responsibility for yourself. And I think there's a point where you need to learn about that. So I would have my students sign a contract with me at the beginning of the semester so that we are looking at each other and agreeing like we're going to work hard and I'm going to do my part. I'm going to show up and be prepared and work hard for you, and you are going to do the same for me. And I think for some students were like, whoa, okay. And I said, if that's not okay with you, you don't sign the contract, then that's fine. But I think that's just being very realistic about the responsibility of just any of us as professionals or players or teachers, or as I'm saying, like if they're athletes or they're community leaders or whatever, that show up and take that responsibility. So maybe for some students, that was like maybe the first time to really think about it in that way, to cultivate those qualities of that are about taking care of yourself and being responsible. I have this work to do. I got to work on my reading. I need to learn these pieces of music. I need to work on my ear, whatever the topics are in your musicianship journey that you're developing, that you've ultimately got to do the work. So I guess it's kind of interesting conversation where we're talking about maybe in the old days, there was this kind of like taskmaster would come in and like, all right, people get it together, as opposed to like now we really see this way of cultivating that, these are skills that we need to cultivate. We don't need to yell at you to get them done. You can try to work on getting organized for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. We're going to go on to some areas. What you guys have in common that I think would be really cool for people to hear about is you're both known for your technical ability on the instrument that serves your musicianship. So people are going to want to know what you're practicing and how you're practicing. I think it'd be cool to talk about the sounds that you get, how you work on your tone, how you work with effects. And then also both of you tour. And Joe, like obviously you've been on tour for a while now, right now, and Tomo, you go often to Asia and tour, and just talking about that, making that transition that, people say they want to play, but getting out of the practice room and thinking about all the aspects of that work and how you get comfortable on a stage and how you sort of see yourself in that environment and what that's like. So before we move on to those big topics, there's a question in the chat here from a student that I think is pretty great. The student wants to know if you teach your students differently if they want to major in production or other majors that aren't performance. So all these things that you're talking about, do you modify that or do you just teach them on the instrument in the same way? Tomo, what about you?
Yeah, I do actually a little bit different because, foundation part, rhythm guitar or, time or sight reading, I do definitely I would do the foundation part. But then more expertise part is I don't really push so much soloing for the production people because not really important to play solo on it, but knowing really good R&B and rhythm guitar, because that's really great to, come into as a rhythm guitar player on the production, help other people. So I just go more rhythm guitar parts to teach these people.
What about you, Joe? Do you modify your approach or no?
Yes, absolutely. Because so many of the students are all into various subgenres of metal. So I try to figure out like what I can do to help them the best. And not everybody has the same playing intensity. Somebody that's like not majoring in performance and using the instrument more, they want to be a producer, and then they want to know the instrument well. They want to get a good tone. There's many, especially in the metal genre, there are many producers that are excellent, that are players themselves. And there's many of them where like one of the bands they produce, they end up playing a whole bunch of the guitar parts on the record, where the actual musicians in the band aren't because they're not getting it right. But it's really geared towards the player's interest and also their level of intensity. Playing 6 hours a day is not for everybody. I'm the first one to tell you that. And so I always try to tailor it to the student's needs. Like because it could be somebody that is very busy with their major. So when they play, they want to be playing. Granted, they have to be responsible for the final exam material. So of course that's always in the lesson, and overall guitar and improving your overall guitar knowledge. But as far as different things to work on, it's a matter of them finding things that they enjoy playing and they enjoy practicing, since they're not spending a huge amount of time playing. So you'd want whatever technical thing they're doing or whatever type of thing would be something that that's helping them, but also something that they enjoy.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And the one thing I wanted to add to that I've noticed in my own teaching is that I feel like because I've had a lot of production majors and I worked in production for a while in a studio, it actually has helped me as a teacher for everybody, because when I have a lot of production majors in a class, it's like we can think about the way they're even, like we're working on tone production, for example. It's like, how would you produce this? If someone played it, what would you want to hear in the timbre? What would you want to hear in the shape of the note? What would you want to hear in the dynamic level or the register or the density of this? And then what do you need them to do? What do you need yourself to do to create that sound with your hands? And so that's such a producer mindset, but it's really a great practice mindset for a performer, because really in a way, when we're practicing, we're producing ourselves. And the same is true if you're writing or if you're in an ensemble. And that became clear to me when I got a job in the studio years ago. And now that we have all these great young producers and people who are majoring in other things, it really helps for everybody, I think. So I think it's interesting that we do that. We all do that. We modify our approach, but we don't necessarily lessen it. Modify doesn't mean lessen. It just means direct. Sheryl, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, some of my most interesting students have actually been film scoring majors, because they, they don't have the time to practice on the instrument. They're always very curious about different kinds of scales and voicing. So it can be fun, because you never know what kind of film you'll be scoring or what kind of scene you might need this piece of music for. So I think there's so many levels that you can just connect on about music. And really, isn't that what we're talking about here with all these different styles, is that we still have those fundamentals of music that are, connect us all outside of genre, right? So I think that's really what it's about touching on with any student.
Yeah, I think that's right. So now for the two of you, for Tomo and Joe, I think a lot of people who listen to your playing are inspired by the whole way that you play, the way that your technique kind of links up with your sound production, which you both have a really distinctive sound. You use effects. You use the electric guitar really as its own instrument in the way that you play it. And you're known to have a lot of technical facility. How do you work on that? Like, what do you value when you practice, Joe? Like, what are you thinking about when you practice? How do you break things down for yourself to work on?
Well, myself, I mean, most of the time when I'm practicing, a lot of times I'm gearing up for, it all depends on what I have in the pipes. Am I working on a new record? Am I am I preparing for a tour? Is it, a tour with Alcatraz? Is it a solo tour? Is it material that I'm playing with one of my regional bands? I have a Deep Purple tribute and a Rainbow tribute. So always whatever I'm playing is geared towards that. And then sometimes I like to I say I'm in a practicing no man's land where I get just to play whatever I feel like playing. And granted, I have various different things that I play, various picking things, various arpeggio things. And sometimes I'll just pick up the guitar and get freed up and start playing, or play over a groove. I have all these different things that I do when I play. But more often than not, it's usually towards something I got going on, because I usually got something going on all the time. But I have various things I'll do to lose, especially with touring, because you'll be in situations a lot where I've been to Asia a bunch of times, so it could be I could leave on a Tuesday and it could be Wednesday 9:30 at night China time, Beijing time by the time I'm in my hotel room, and I haven't touched a guitar in like a billion hours, and then I got to do a clinic the next day or a master class or a show. So I have various kind of warm up things that I'll do and things that are geared towards, okay, these are things that are good for me to loosen up my hands when I'm really beat up. Because that's one of the most difficult parts of touring is trying to play your best when you feel your worst, and that is a regular portion of it. I mean, I could go in great detail about touring and all the things that are great about it and all the things that are stinky.
Well, I want you to go into a little bit of detail because I think when you talked about practicing, and you're talking about practicing really most of the time alone, 7 to 9 hours a day, which is a very like internal process, right? You're by yourself, you're practicing, you have your schedule, you have your materials. But then you also have this touring life where you're really, I mean, for lack of a better word, like you're a public figure. You're on the stage. You have a stage persona. I saw a cool photo of you like playing the guitar with your foot, right? At one point on stage. Like, how do you practice for that? Like, how do you transition now? Like, you're in the practice room and you have all the stuff you do on the instrument and all the stuff you're doing musically, but now that has to have a stage life. So how do you work on the stage life of your music and what you do?
Well, I just try to be as prepared as possible when I'm playing, because I'm always playing something fairly technically demanding. So I want to make sure it's as tightened up and buttoned up as I can possibly have it. Granted, everybody makes mistakes live, and you blow a chord here or there. It's not like they built me in the lab, but I try. I really preach over preparation. Because as I often say to my students, and especially with playing live, there are many things, during a live show that are out of your control. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of stuff going on and, things going wrong or whatever, or potentially. Preparation is always in one's control. So I just try to be as prepared as possible. That way, when I get out there, and I have all these various pre-show rituals. So when I get out there, I'm just out to, to be as confident as I am, and I'm just out to destroy. Practice time ended. Practice time is over. There's no more practice time. You know what I mean? It's like playing a game. You know what I mean? There's no practice during the game. The game has started. You know what I mean? You're either going to win or lose.
Okay, so this is great because I think a lot of young players haven't thought about yet that you're going to have different versions of yourself. Like the destroyer on the stage that's in the game is almost a different part of your personality than the person in the practice room and then the person in the lesson room. So how have you balanced that over the years? Or do you feel like right when you walk into the venue or the situation, that part of you kicks in?
That part of me kicks in when the show starts, even if I'm tired. Usually by the time showtime rolls around, I'm ready. I'm ready for action or whatever, because that kind of all washes away. And plus, it really doesn't matter. I mean, people are there to see you. People paid money to see you. You're tired. Too bad. You didn't sleep good last night. Too bad. You just got done driving 6.5 hours in the van. That's too bad too. You know what I mean? You had to wake up. Yeah, you had to wake up at 8:30 after going to bed at 3:45. We don't care. We're here to see the show. That's like, no one wants to hear about your touring woes. Everybody says they want to be a rock star. You have to do a lot of stuff that's highly demanding physically. So you really got to love it. If you don't love it, stay home.
Right. Tomo, what
Yes.
about you and these? So there's a few incarnations here. Like, what are the things you're working on in the practice room?
Yes.
And then
Well,
how do you do this when you're on tour? How do you like kind of transition from practice room version of yourself
yeah.
to teacher version to stage version of
It's
yourself?
really hard. And then, Joe told us a lot of great story and great, points. And number one, about tone production. It's really, really important for me because play blues, funk, jazz, a lot of different style, rock too. But then I think to me, clean tones first are important to get really good, like a time and dynamics and tone control. So first lesson at Berkeley usually say, okay, here's an amp we use, Hot Rod Deluxe, right? So how are we gonna use this one? For example, Zach Gibbs, he's been studying with me 3-4 semesters. First thing he said, oh, I don't like trebly, so I rolled up treble, a little bit mids. I love reverb. I put the reverb. Okay, this is how I set. Treble 9, middle is middle, and bass is a 3, no reverb, and more volume, and guitar tone all the way up, but guitar volume is about 6 or 7. He goes, are you kidding me? This is horrible. Right, that's why you get the better tone, because it's hard to play. If you play trombone, trumpet, you can get a nice tone at the same day. Only the guitar, you just using adding stuff and sounds okay. It's okay is a problem. You don't want to make it okay. It's horrible or good, right? And so this way, other thing, being a teacher, being a touring, guy, of course, a lot changes. One time I had to go to Korea. First, I had to do seminar and I had to do tour. So I left Wednesday night. I arrived, Thursday there, Thursday night. And then, of course, airplane delayed. And almost I have to cancel, but somehow we pushed it. We get there. We got there, no practice time, right to the stage and to do playing. That was the first, clinic, then playing. And then Sunday, I packed up, I left, I came back Monday, Tuesday, hi, how are you? I come back. And how you do that? Because I just believe nothing happened between. And I'm getting a little older, so I get a little tired, but usually just like Joe said, I'm in the airplane, I'm in the, limo, whatever, then I just change my mind. I'm showtime. It's no regrets, nothing to, worry about. Just keep going, Only thing difficult, a lot of people don't know, time change, really horrible. Every time I loved being in Japan, all right, 7 p.m. show, that's like 5 a.m. here. And you have to play your best, show ever you do. How are you gonna do that, So my mind, I just completely fool myself. I'm in a different zone. I'm just fine. I do that. Also, you have to be very careful what you eat nighttime, because here I don't have to teach. I can drink, I can eat like that. People do, but I do like this. No, after 9 p.m. I don't touch anything. I don't eat any pasta. I don't eat any, just vegetable. And just that, like that, a lot of yogurt. That way I keep alive, Otherwise I get really tired end of it. Yeah, so that's really hard. Also, I do like this, notebook. I write everything I can think of. I'm huge into preparation, just like a job. I just really, really prepare. Really prepare. Even this morning, I make a coffee, but last night, make sure coffee, everything ready, everything ready so that I don't have to go through, chaos, because a lot of chaos, airplane delay, car don't come show up, and I go there, I ask a certain amp, and now the amp is a broken amp, you have to stipulate the show, so yeah, but that's a tough one, tone production. And every time you have a time, definitely I keep practicing. But then touring, you can't keep practicing. Sometimes you have to deal with every detail, whatever they ask for. So you have to really be very flexible. And you have to watch out your health, because once you get sick, you can't do anything. So you always have to be very careful. Always after the show, wash your hand, don't touch your face. That's really no, because guitar easy to do, touch everywhere. So something like that.
I think these things are really valuable because I think sometimes there's this idea of what it means to be a touring musician or a rock star, however
Exactly.
people think of it, right? And people think of it as really glamorous and it's all about your image, and the person that they see on the stage, they think is exactly the same person that walks around the street, and it's not really true. That's part of you that's honest, but then there are other parts of you. And you have to take care, what you're all saying is you have to take care of your whole person. You have to
Well,
take care of,
Jim,
yeah, go
isn't
ahead.
that really what we were talking about earlier? Like when you're asking me about the contract. I mean, I
Mm.
guess that was my thought in that, is that it doesn't change. I mean, that's sort of a metaphor for this little time together, but what everybody's talking about is you have to be responsible to take care of yourself, the
Mhm.
physicality of it, the physicality of yourself, and then your hands, like Joe was talking about warming up is, and I'm know all of us here take that time, right? So isn't that that's kind of the theme of it. It's not, it is that developing that internal discipline
Mhm.
that just immerses, you immerse yourself in it, and everything that you do, it reflects in everything you do.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. If when you're on stage to serve the music and serve the listener, you have a part of your personality that comes out so that you can command that stage. Then also being responsible to the music is to have a different approach personality wise when you're in the practice room and when you're in the teaching studio, because it's really everything we're doing is in service to the music, which is the larger thing. It's bigger than your personality at any given time. And there's a great question that one of the folks listening has, like, we're talking about how you maintain a healthy lifestyle for your body, for yourself, but also you're going to have to maintain hopefully healthy relationships in your life, right? And they can be any kind of long-term relationships that you have. Um, but do you have advice about that? Really, any of the three of you? But Tomo, do you want to start? Like,
Yeah, like I'm getting a little bit more demand about food.
mm-hmm,
I ask, for example, if I go Asia, I don't ride a regular airplane. I just have to be business, and it has to be food quality this much. Don't buy this. I have a lot of detail like that because I want to be healthy.
mm-hmm.
So make sure, because I don't want people run to the convenience store, get something for me. I don't take that, because
What?
I have to feel good about myself and make sure everything high quality. So like, from tour manager or, work I work with, always quality of food, what time we eat. I have to know exactly. That's really important because I always eat kind of certain time, Yeah. So something like that. So, and then work out. Yeah, I have a staff member in Japan who's my old student. So like the first day they bring a dumbbells to my hotel. So next day I have a dumbbell, push-ups, sit-ups, I whole routine. So from right next day, just like a home, I work out. I
Mm-hmm.
work out, I walk, and then I try not eat too much on late night. That's a new thing. I watch out the calorie. And then when I'm in Japan, night like this, I do kind of crazy. Japan's beer is red. I don't drink beer now because I just drink more water. Maybe red wine here and there, but no beer because easy to keep drinking because it tastes so good, So I stop them. Yeah. Then I don't eat any snacks, no chips, nothing. So I
Mm.
request all fruits. So that's my high demand about the food part.
What do you
Yeah.
think about when you, as you're traveling and you're spending so much time on music? What do you think about it in terms of maintaining healthy relationships with friends and family? How do you
Oh
have
yeah.
to prioritize that?
Oh, what I mean, spending so much time on music.
Well, yeah, that was one of the questions that someone had, like, how what do you think about when you're balancing all the things you're doing in your career with maintaining healthy relationships with other people?
Yeah. So like, of course I have a kids and my wife. So, always every day email, before I go to bed, texting her. We talk about, I mean, we can talk so much minimum, because sometimes hotel people pick up in Japanese, so, kind of hard. So sometimes we texting, But yeah, I think a little communication is really important
Hmm.
because see, if you go to, tour, you're a star, so everybody kind of make everything, great. But then after you finish show, you have to go back to regular person. You can't be star all night long. You know what I mean? And that's not good, because usually I sell CD, talk, shake a hand, wash my hand, go back to the, backstage. I change my clothes, then I become a normal person. I think. And after that, I don't bring that any ego to hotel room, It just everything left there. Then that's for grateful for short time to be really, great,
That's really cool.
Something
That's a
like
cool
that.
way to think about it. You make that a special time that's its own thing.
Yeah, very special time. You don't want to go. That's why, like a drinking beer, it's okay, but seems like the people going a little too long after the show to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I like a Bees is B apostrophe Z. Bees is really famous, band in Japan, guitar player and a singer, and the singer, put the really amazing, drinking, eating, party after the show. But he always go back hotel to watch whole video of a show. So because next day he can do better. Once I heard that one, I have to do that. So I always record my show, not every night to listen to it, but sometimes just to sit down, just to, listen a little bit if I want to do, just because next day I want to make better, because I do a lot of solo guitar. And then more than half of the stuff I prepared. So everything sort of halfway written, but some of the stuff improvised. And I can go wrong, or I pick up too fast like that, but I have to really watch out next day. So sometimes if I notice some parts, I just pull out, I listen to it. So people think I'm partying. No, I just preparing for next day. Right, Joe?
Yeah, Joe, what about you? How do you balance your own personal health and the health of your relationships with other people?
Well, I kind of eat like a bird on the road, so I don't eat a lot. And I wouldn't say I live the healthiest lifestyle, but I mean, I like to drink beer and stuff. That's one of the things on my rider. I drink all those craft beers, so the promoters running around trying to find me double IPAs and triple IPAs, but I mean, I've been at it long enough that I'm extremely good at like keeping everything in check, and as long as I have some, and I live really healthy at home. So if I have to eat like, not the healthiest stuff on the road, it really doesn't affect me all that much. The thing, like I'm in the UK now. So the thing that's really getting me in the UK is the fact that, throughout the entire UK, there is no filter coffee. You only have like espresso. So you can get a cortado, or you can get a cappuccino,
Right.
or you can get a flat white. And then you only have instant coffee, So, and this is actually good instant coffee that I bought at the store or whatever. But so the coffee situation is really doing me in here as far as that goes. Filter coffee has not made its way to the United Kingdom. And of course everybody knows espresso has much less caffeine. So I'll be ordering like a large cappuccino with like 2 extra shots, and the people at the coffee shop think I'm out of my mind. Meanwhile, that's like nothing, compared to like just a regular large coffee from Starbucks or something. But so kind of like when I'm touring, all bets are off because I live plenty healthy at home. And I don't drink any more on the road than I do at home. I mean, I enjoy drinking craft beer, but I'm always in check. I don't get out of control or anything like that. And I'm always and I stay up late anyway. Back home, I go to bed at like 2 or between 2, anywhere from 1:30 to 2:30 or 1:30 to 3. So with the time change, it's tougher. For me to go to bed early after a show is like 3 or something. And then sometimes I have to wake up at like 9 o'clock or something stupid. And so there's certain things like that I can't control. I have to wake up at 9 o'clock. I gotta, but I'm very pleased. One of my favorite things about touring is I'm very pleased with all the touring I've done, you always hear about, like, being on the nightliner and on the tour bus, musicians not showering for 3 days. I've never played a show without a shower. So that's one of the that's one of the things I'm very pleased with. I have this streak of years of touring all over the world where I'm freshly bathed every show. So I'm very pleased with that. Yeah, and the tour. Yeah, well, there's certain things I won't do. You know what I mean? I will not. You know what I mean? I'm not getting up there a greasy, grimy mess. You know what I mean? I mean, it's different. I'm very particular. Meaning, if the promoter can't find me the exact beer that I want, I go to the store. Like in Japan, I was playing in Tokyo, and the promoter had like some substandard IPA that really wasn't going to do it for me. So the day of the show, the first show, and they were recording it for a live thing. So I'm like, I got to get the proper, the things I need. So I went to, I went downstairs. I went down. I took care of it myself. There's only a few things that I really need to make sure. My list of demands is very, very minor, Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm used to it, and I'm kind of built for it. And especially it's difficult. The thing that beats me up the most is like on smaller tours, it's not like I have a guitar tech or a roadie. So I'm carrying my stuff in and out of hotels every night. So that kind of wears you down, like like taking your suitcase around, your guitars around, all your stuff, and lugging that all over the place is much more taxing. The drives in between shows, that kind of stuff is taxing. The portion of all of that is easy. Getting around and banging around up there for an hour and a half is like that. That's no problem, but it's But it's some of the other stuff that kind of takes its toll on you a bit.
Yeah. I think this is really good for people to hear that this is a part of your life that you're going to be managing. Like every aspect of what we do is a part of your life that you manage. And we have one more question over here that's specific. It goes back to some of our production and writing listeners who are hearing like more rock music in film, and wondering how you both, if you have any thoughts specifically about if you've had students who've done that, or if you played for television or movies, and how you feel like that incorporation of rock and playing affects the scene of the movie, if you feel like it brings something to it. And one thing I would say before I turn it over to you all is that we have this really cool class. It's a collaboration with film scoring for this reason. And the film score department gets movies from Hollywood, and then there's two different types of sessions. One is for like classical and acoustic guitars, and one is for electric guitars, and specifically teach film scoring students how to write for rock guitar and metal guitar to put things in scenes. And it is really cool when you hear the same movie clip played by guitar players with a bunch of different approaches to rock guitar. So do either of you have experience with that, or have students who have worked in that kind of studio work? Tomo, do you have anybody that?
Not really. People work in studio work, but definitely, if you watch a movie,
Mhm.
definitely more blues rock stuff. Sometimes more country, Nashville, and I have a lot of friends in Nashville, and do the studio work, and definitely those guys always have to get really good Marshall amp, certain guitar to get that kind of tone. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you are interested in that, definitely watch out several session guys on Nashville scene. That's probably a great one too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of room for that here, because I think we have these great production and writing departments. You can come back and forth between them.
Right.
And we have collaborations where you do learn to play in those contexts. So I think that's really great. Before we wrap up, one of the questions that we had in the chat comes from Rob Moore, who's a great Berkeley guitarist right now, and he was asking if you guys are inspired by your own students. And I just want to throw out there, not that he was looking for this, but I'm very inspired by Rob, particularly, right? I mean, and the reason is because of everything you guys said, that coming in and seeing Rob playing in the office where he works with us is like, it inspires me to practice. And when I used to see him, Joe, we were just talking about Rob Moore, who's one of your students, who had a question about whether or not you guys are inspired by your students. And my answer was, yeah, absolutely, because I watch how excited Rob is, and it reminds me to be excited about what I do. How does that strike each of you really quick? What do you think?
Well, like, I taught John Mayer, and he makes so many great records.
Mm-hmm.
He gets better and better about the tone. He have a lot of dumbbell amps and everything. So definitely he inspired me about songwriting, getting great tone, a lot of things. And then Eric Krasno, Shmin, led us, funk band. Now Tom Misch asked me Skype lesson now. So I teach Tom Skype lesson. So, a lot of people I teach who does great music, and almost like it's just reflection to really see good music, and just makes me practice more, makes me more serious about music more. So it just not teacher students, relationship, almost like a guitar friends who kind of help each other kind of deal, So that's it's even like now a lot of students. I mean, Sebastian from Argentina, I found out that he has really great Stevie Ray Vaughan feel, Mark Knopfler feel, and David Gilmour feel. And usually I say, that's enough, you should move on. But he sounds so good, I just keep playing and let him play more. And I just try to discover that into his own sound. So every lesson we play, we work on a proficiency very seriously. Then we play. It's so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah. In the minute we have left, I just want to build on what you're saying, Tomo, and just answer a few questions about auditions, and say that all of you can spend more time with Tomo and Joe if you go to our YouTube page. Both of them have contributed a lot of videos. They've contributed playing things. They have interviews on our Coffee Talk podcast series, which you can get on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts for the audio. You can also go and watch the interviews on our playlist on our YouTube. And if you're auditioning for Berklee, in a nutshell, what we care about is you being yourself. And so to answer some questions that have come up at the last moment here, yes, we absolutely think about who you are and what you want to pursue. We want you to come and play a piece of music that reflects who you are as beautifully as you can and as confidently as you can. We'll ask you a bunch of questions. We'll have you go through things. We did do a really cool hang on our Coffee Talk about how to prepare for your audition, so you can take your time and listen to 4 or 5 different perspectives from faculty who do these auditions all the time. And so Tomo's right. We're all guitar friends here. It's like a big guitar community. So
Exactly.
Really, when you're auditioning, we're asking more, is this a good fit for you at this time? Right? And so we want you to be as prepared as you can, and then so that when you get here, you can take advantage of all of these things and be here with us, and then, continue hopefully to be involved with our guitar community as you graduate and move on with your own career. Which is what Sheryl and Ben and Joe and Tomo have done as alumni of our great guitar department. So yeah, so I mean, it's kind of a great way to wrap it up. Also, if you're interested in coming to summer programs, those are also short ways that you can get involved and do all these things. And yes, you can do all of these things in a 5-week program or even the 1-week program that we have. So thank you all for hanging today. Thank you for being here. Tomo, I bet you have a student waiting for you in the hallway. And Joe, you have a show tonight, so thank you so much for getting up early and being with us and being here early. So
thank you.
Coffee cheers to all of you. Thank you, Sheryl Bailey. Thank you, Tomo Fujita,
Thank you.
Ben Cote, and thank you, Joe Stump. And we'll see all of you next time and hope to see you at Berkeley.
All right.